Let's talk about that. I mean, what you were just saying there are all very vivid subtexts in your book about how in this secular world that we live in, that the truth is often a little elusive, and certainly in a court of law can be twisted in any way you like. But what I'd like to talk about now is the other lawsuit that you're involved with, and you're alongside Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who is well known to viewers of this channel, and Dr. Martin Kulldorff. This is against the United States government for censorship imposed during the COVID scare, which you were alluding to just a second ago. Now, unlike most other cases regarding government censorship, this which normally involve just, single instances of the government meddling in some sort of publication, this is much bigger because it involves the censorship of hundreds of thousands of citizens. You make the claim that this is one of the most important censorship cases of our time. Now, can you give us a little update on how that case is coming along?
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. And you're right, Jay, Martin, and I, as scientists and physicians who are censored, are bringing that case as private plaintiffs. And the case is also being brought by two states within the United States, Missouri and Louisiana, against the federal government. And what we're alleging is that the federal government and many senior officials in the federal government were pressuring and colluding with social media companies to censor free speech online. And initially, we were focused on censorship related to COVID, but as we've uncovered more evidence in what's called the discovery process, where we can subpoena documents from the government and communications that they had with social media companies, we're realizing that this government censorship apparatus was censoring content on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube, other social media companies, related to all kinds of other issues of national importance here in the United States. Things from election integrity to gender ideology and disputes about gender-related policy, to disputes about abortion and immigration, all kinds of things. The government was basically pressuring social media companies to do its bidding. And private companies here in the United States can arguably engage in censorship, but no one doubts, and inarguably, the federal government cannot do that. That's a clear violation of the First Amendment of our United States Constitution, which guarantees the right of free speech. We have very strong, or should have very strong, free speech protections here in the United States if the Constitution is being upheld. And in this case, it's not. And what you pointed out is true. This case is very significant because previous cases in which the government was slapped down by the courts for censoring usually involve one publisher or one author, or maybe one source or one series of articles that the government was trying to get changed or removed. Whereas this, because of the breadth and scope of this novel digital technology, involves basically hundreds of thousands of Americans being censored over tens of millions of specific instances, actually, of censorship. So just the reach and the scope of this censorship leviathan is unlike anything that we've ever seen in the past. I think it's not an exaggeration to call it Orwellian. And in fact, how our case is going is that we were in court last week arguing for what's called a temporary injunction, meaning basically we're asking the court, before the case even goes to trial, just on the basis of the documents we've submitted so far, that the government intervene and order that the court rather intervene and order the federal government to stop engaging in this activity until the court makes a ruling, right? So it's asking the court to basically put a halt to a particular practice while the case is being tried. And I think we're going to get that injunction. And I mentioned Orwell, but actually the judge in our case also mentioned Orwell last week after we made oral arguments in favor of our petition for an injunction. The judge asked the people in the courtroom if they had ever read Orwell's 1984, and if so, did they remember where the Ministry of Truth came from? And then he said, because it's relevant here, indicating, it's relevant to our case and what we're alleging is happening in terms of our federal government. And of course, for those who haven't read the book, Orwell's Ministry of Truth, everything that's named in the book is sort of named in this upside down way. So the Ministry of Truth is basically the censorship and propaganda arm of the government. The Ministry of Love is the secret police that tortures people, that sort of thing.